Hello and welcome to this video lesson. For this video lesson, we will discuss the Project 2 YouTube video requirements, as well as a tutorial for the software you will be using to complete that project. So this is the week 5 of 6 module, and if you scroll down here, you'll see the Project 2 YouTube video requirements right above the submission assignment here. So uh, I will go through this. So for this project, you will create a short YouTube video between 2 to 3 minutes. So this YouTube video will be similar to the last one, but you're going to be asked to do something different. In this video, you're going to be describing a flow chart that you design yourself based on a program that's provided right here. Okay, so this first bullet point says to describe your flowchart and explain how the program's data flows from start to finish for this program. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Okay, so you are not recreating this code or writing additional code or doing any of that. You're not writing any code for this assignment. You are creating a flow chart that represents how data flows through this program. So we'll go ahead and close that. Says to walk through the program logic, showing how each decision, process, and output is represented. Again, this is referring to the flowchart. Like the last project, you're going to discuss what felt easy and what felt hard when you were creating the flowchart. And you need to explain how you translated the code into the flowchart, including the steps that you followed to replicate the program's logic and data flow accurately. And below that, I have some flowchart guidelines and the link to the software it is a free software, the link to the software you will use. We'll go over this in a moment. Um, at the bottom, the last bullet point here describes that we did look at some flowcharts in the week 2 module. You had a few quizzes about these. If you want to go back and review some of them, I just wanted to let you know where those were. And I've also included the Project 2 video rubric, so please read this at your leisure. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to this link. I'll click on it here. And this takes me to draw.io. And I've used this software many times in the past. It's a good software, so we'll go ahead and use it. I've zoomed in on it so it's easier to see on your end. It looks like this. So the left side panel has a drop down called General. If yours looks like this, if your interface looks like this, you simply click on this very small triangle here right next to the word General. I'll go ahead and do that, and then it should open up the options for you. So if I go back to the YouTube video requirements for the flowchart guidelines, it says to use an oval or an ellipse to represent the start and the end of the program. It details that if we want to show that input is being taken, i.e., the user is entering some value into the program, we will represent that with a parallelogram. And then this text here, where it says e.g. enter project score, is also referencing that you want to write in some text into the parallelogram to represent what's happening. And we'll go over how to do that in a moment. For decisions like conditional statements, you will use a diamond and you will enter the condition for that decision. So in this case, score greater than or equal to 90. Um, for process, you will represent that with a rectangle, and a process is like a statement. So it's not going to be a conditional. It's not going to be a for loop or a while loop. It's just going to be a statement. So something like this: assign grade equal the character A. That is just a statement. That's just what's happening. It's not a decision or an evaluation that's being made. It's just happening. In this case, it's an assignment. The output will be represented with a parallelogram, much like the input. So if we're going to display the grade somewhere, that would be a parallelogram. And your arrows should be labeled specifically for conditions. You need to label um, you need to label an arrow that goes to what happens when things are true, and you need to label that true, and then for false likewise. Okay, I took a pause and I wanted to bring up a quiz question from week 2. Like I mentioned, we did this, we had flowcharts as part of the week 2 quizzes. Um, you will also be using diamonds to represent while loops, and you have a while loop in your program because they come with a condition. It's an evaluation. So in this example here, uh, we assign x equal to 15, and then the data flows down here. In your program, you will label this arrow, or your flow chart, you will be labeling the arrow. It says x greater than or equal to 10. So this is the condition. This is what you will write in your diamond. And then it says true. Here's this statement. It's in a rectangle, and then this arrow shows that the data flows through and back. This is a loop. So this is showing you how to do a loop, and you do have a loop in your that you need to represent in your project. Okay, I'm going to go to an untitled diagram. So I have some sample code that I was going to work from, so I can kind of give you some examples of how to do this. So we're going to do this very short program. So it says num equals 0, while num less than 3, print num, and then increment num by 1 with each iteration. Okay, so I'll go back here. And to start the program, I need to use an ellipse. Okay, so here, I should do that a little slower. So what happened was I moved to the left side of my screen where the ellipse was located, and I clicked down, and it's a drag and drop. Okay, so now I'm gonna drag my mouse over, and then I let go and the click, and now the ellipse is placed onto this empty grid. Okay, and this is where I'm doing my flowchart on this empty grid. If I double click within the shape, so I'm just going to double click, I get an opportunity to write some text. This is the beginning, so I will write start. Okay, this is going to represent the beginning of my program. So it's going to say start. So I'm going to go back to the code, and there's an assignment happening here. It says num equals 0. So I need to add a rectangle for assignment. So right here is the rectangle. I'm going to drag and drop. And I'm going to try to align things so that it's just easier. It's easier for you and for me to plan what we want to do. If we kind of just drag and drop everything everywhere, the eye is going to struggle kind of where to look. And so you typically want to do these from top down. So you want to work from the top down wherever possible. Okay, so now I'm going to double click in here, and I think it said num equals 0. Right. So I'm going to double click in here, and I'm going to say num equals 0, or the num is assigned the value of 0. And I'm going to click off. So now I would like an arrow. I can drag and drop one from the general panel right here. I can drag and drop that over, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'm dragging it, and I could just align it here, and then I can move this downward to touch this. Or there's an easier way. You can click once on the item that you want the arrow to come from, and if you move your cursor down and you hover over the bottom or the left, right, and up, any cardinal direction, then you just click on the arrow that becomes available when you hover over, an arrow is automatically placed. So you need to click on that. So again, click on this, make sure it's highlighted, and then if you move down, you kind of see that there's and the imprint of an arrow. And if you hover over it, it's highlighted, and then if you click it, the arrow um, the arrow generates and it shows up here. Okay. This is the start to num equals 0. Let's continue. So we'll go ahead and reference the code again. Now we have to represent this while loop. So we are going to represent while loop with a diamond, and then this is the condition that the while loop continues for. So it's going to be num less than 3. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to click off of the items, and then I'm going to look for the diamond. It's right here. I'm going to drag and drop. I believe you can also, whoops, I believe you can also double click, and then element should be dragged in. So let me double click a diamond. There it is. Yeah, you can also double click. I'll just say Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Oh, and then also, I'm not sure if everybody is a Windows user, but control holding down the control button and Z on your keyboard will undo the last action, and holding down control and then Y will redo the action. Sometimes I forget not everybody is going to be a Windows or Linux user. So I'm going to go ahead and drag in the diamond, place it right there. Um, I like the diamonds to look a little bit wide. It's just a preference. I see them that way on the quizzes, and I do like that. So I'm going to continue that tradition. Okay, this is a pretty good diamond. It looks like it's going to be able to hold the text that I need to be contained within it. And the condition is num less than 3. So I double click and I say num less than 3. At this point, you could put a question mark if you want to show that it's being evaluated. I'm not grading very stringently like this. I just need for the program's logic to be represented as accurately as possible. Okay. So, all right. So then num is 0. And then to represent the flow of data, let's go ahead and draw an arrow. So the program starts here, then it goes here, and then it goes here. So with this previous statement, which is num equals 0 highlighted, I'm going to press the arrow. Okay. And now that's going to go there. And let's look at this. So while num is less than 3, we're going to print that value. So this is a statement. So this is going to be a rectangle. This is also a statement, num plus equal to 1. So I'm going to drag over a rectangle, and we're going to say print num. And you can create a separate rectangle for num plus equal 1, but you can also um, just show the increment happening here. That's fine too. This is also going to be accepted, but if you'd like to create a separate rectangle for that, that's okay too. Okay, so I'm going to draw the arrow going down here. And at this point, it is necessary to label what's happening. So again, this is a decision. And so I'm going to drag some text over. So on the very left side panel, you can't see it very well, but it's next to the rounded rectangle. It says text. There's a heading right next to the text, and then there's text. I'm going to drag and drop that over. I'm going to place it. Oh, looks like I could place it on the arrow. I like placing these next to the arrow if possible, because sometimes it overlaps with the arrow and I don't like that. So I'll just try to put it next to it. Okay. And this happens, so num is printed and num is incremented when num is less than 3, meaning that this happens when that condition is true. So then for this arrow, I'm going to label it true. And this is how you would label. This is what is meant when in the project requirements, I say to label the arrow. So that's sufficient. Um, okay. And then I want to represent that this is a loop. So I need to create an arrow that shows that once this process, these two statements are complete, the evaluation continues. So I can drag and drop an arrow. Let's see what happens if I just do this. Yeah. So if there is not another element that the arrow can be joined with, pressing the arrow button will try to produce some of the common general tools and shapes, which we do not want. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop an arrow, and it is a one directional arrow. So I'm going to go like this. Let's see. Just bear with me here. I'm going to point the tip of the arrow here, and then there's a middle there's like a highlighted, very small blue circle here. I'm going to pull that this way, and then I'm going to pull this way. Great. And so this is going to be the loop. Okay, this is showing that it continues just like this. All right. And while I'm evaluating my work, I notice that did put this print num here in this rectangle as it is part of a process. But when I reference the rules here, it clearly states that output is designated as a parallelogram. So I'm actually going to separate these. So I'm going to have num plus equal to 1 as its own rectangle down here, and print num is going to be within a parallelogram. These are going to be two separate shapes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag, here it is, the parallelogram, which looks like kind of like a side wavy rectangle. So I'm going to drag it over. I'm going to click and move this down, this rectangle here, to make room for that parallelogram. And then let's see, this parallelogram can go here. So I'm going to delete this arrow. So I click on the arrow and then I press the delete button on my keyboard, or I think I could press backspace. Let me press backspace. Okay, backspace or delete on your keyboard will get rid of it. And let's see. Okay, this is good for now. Uh, I'm going to cut where it says print num. If it lets me, a little finicky here. So Control X and then backspace here. And then I double click in the parallelogram and I paste just like this. And then I go back to the decision diamond for the while loop. And I'm going to press the, let's see, this looks a little different, but I'm glad it's happening here so we can handle this. So I'll move the true out of the way a little bit, and then there it is. Now I can see the arrow again. So I move that down there, and then I move that down there. Okay, that's good. And then because we've changed this, this arrow needs to come from num being incremented. That's where it's going to happen. Oops, a little messed up. And then true can come down here. Okay. So this should be sufficient. Additionally, this interface allows you to group highlight items. So I just left clicked and I drag my cursor over these items. You can move up, you can move down. If you find that you would like your arrows to be a little bit shorter, um, you can use the group highlight to change that. I'm going to do that right here so that all of these things can be seen on your screen more easily. So I can demonstrate these to you easily. Okay, so this looks much better. Okay. All right. So now we need to determine. So we created the loop for when num less than 3 is true. This is what happens. And now we need to create the outcome when num is less when num less than 3 is false. So when I go to the code that I'm referencing, there is nothing past this. So the program terminates after this. If I go to the requirements, start and end are represented with the ellipse. So I'm going to drag and drop an ellipse down here. And I'm going to double click inside and I'm going to say end. Likewise, so I'll Control Z, I can copy any of these objects. So I'm going to say Control C on my keyboard, Control V, and then now I can have the same sized element. And all I need to do is change the text here. So then for num, I want to put an arrow here. I guess I'll have to drag and drop one. There we go. And then I'm going to point it to this end process. And I'm going to manipulate the corners of this arrow so it is easier to see the logic, right? And then I need to, let's see, let's move this in a little bit more actually. And you might find yourself spending more time than you think you need making it look aesthetically pleasing. I'm guilty of this myself. So for this true that was right here, I'm going to Control CV, and then I'm going to label this false. So once num is greater than 3, we reach the end of the program. And so this arrow represents the termination of that program. This is this is the flow chart for this small piece of code right here. So this is what it looks like. Um, Draw.io allows you to also download your flowcharts as PNGs. I'm going to go up here. Where is it? I just saw the name. I think mine says untitled. I can go to File. I can go to Save As. And for Save As, here, now you can see it better. I can name it and I can also choose a file type. Let's see. PNG is probably the best to use, but you can use any of those. And then you can also choose a location. And so for your submission, I also need you to submit the PNG for your flowchart image so I can reference it just in case something happens to the video and I can't see it. But you can name it project to flowchart. Oops, flowchart. And then for type, I'm going to prefer the PNG. So the file type will be restricted to PNG. So please make sure that you select PNG. And then the location, choose a location for that, and then include that in your upload when you upload your video link. There will be a place for that. So I'm going to cancel this because I don't need to do it. And make this a little smaller here. I'm going to center. And then if you think you got the hang of it, you can stop here. If you have more questions, I'll go ahead and I'll do another example. Okay, so for those of you who are left, I'll go ahead and I'll scale out. I will highlight all of this. I'm going to delete it and I'm going to start from scratch. And I can close this program and we will do this code. This code contains a conditional statement. Your project also contains a conditional statement. So this one says num is 3, and then it has 3 conditions for, well, 2 conditions and then an else for what to do, depending on what the value of num is. So as we did before, we're going to drag and drop an ellipse, and this is going to be called start, and I'll scroll in so it's more visible. There we go. So the program starts, and then the first thing that happens is num is assigned 3. In the code that you'll be creating the flowchart from, if we go here, input parallelogram. So when the user is asked to enter their information, use a parallelogram. Because this program is not asking for user information, it is just assigning this value. We're going to use a rectangle. But if I were representing user input, I would use a parallelogram. So let's go ahead and put the rectangle down here. Good. And then this is going to say num is 3. And I'm going to click on this oval. I'm going to click on the arrow down here, and that is going to attach an arrow to that rectangle. Let me go back here. And then now we're going to evaluate. We're going to have some evaluations here. So the first evaluation is if num is greater than 3. I go back to my project requirements, and decisions are represented with diamonds. So I need to get a diamond in here, put it right here. I'm going to elongate it a little bit. I would like it to fit the size of the other elements. Oops, just because I like it to look nice. I think that fits. And it says if, so num greater than 4, num greater than 4. And again, if you want, you could put a question mark after 2, that's fine. But I'm just going to go ahead and put what was written in the code. So at this point, I'm going to click on the rectangle, add an arrow. Num is greater than 4. Then an output, num greater than 4. I'm going to copy this, Control C. And because this is output, this is going to be a parallelogram. So I dragged and dropped that over here, double clicked inside, pasted. I guess I can increase the size a little bit so the text fits. And I want to say this is printed. And I'm going to increase the size again. That's fine. Okay, I'm going to click on the diamond. I'm going to click on the arrow right below, and I'm going to add the text that tells me that this is what happens when this is true. I'm going to move it a little bit closer. Okay. All right, so this is how the data flows in the program. When I click here and I look and I reference the source code, we also have a condition that evaluates elif num is exactly 3, then we're going to do this, which is another output. So I'm going to click here. So if num is not greater than 4, so if that's false, then the next evaluation happens. So if this is true, the program flows here, and then the program terminates. So you get the output and then it terminates. If this is false, then the next condition is evaluated. So in this case, let's see. So we're going to do another condition. Okay. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because you have to make a decision of your own, and that's going to be where you put this next diamond so that your flowchart still looks clean. I'm going to scroll out just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and, I was going to drag and drop it. I'm actually just going to copy this one, Control C, Control V. I'm just going to put it next to it. This is okay to do, okay? Um, as far as right or wrong, where to put the different elements for your flowchart, just try, you could be intuitive. It is best to do things top to bottom, um, and just try your best. If you're not sure, you can always message me. In this case, I am going to put the diamond here. Uh, okay, so I'm going to put an arrow here, going to the next one, and this condition is going to check if num is exactly the integer 3. And this, Control C, Control V, is the evaluation that is made when that first condition is false. So then I can go ahead and do this. All right. And when num is exactly 3, this print statement occurs. And it is output, so it is going to be Control C, Control V. It is going to also be a parallelogram. So I double click here, Control V. Oops, that was a mistake. Um, I thought I copied this over here. I'm just going to write it in. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to say num is 3. Now, I'm going to move this a little bit here. Okay, click here, and then put the arrow here, and then Control C, Control V. This is true. Okay, and then there is an else statement. In an else statement, there is nothing that is being evaluated. So if and elif are evaluations, and if you look to the right of the if and elif keyword, you see the condition that is being evaluated. Else does not evaluate for anything. It is simply what happens when the above requirements were not fulfilled. So for anything else, this is what we do. We're just going to print the whatever the number is. And this is an F string. Okay, so we did cover F strings just a little bit, and that is what is going to happen. So that is not a condition. Additionally, this print statement here, this is just the output. So if this is false, here, let me make some room here, move everything a little bit to the left. Okay, just get a little closer. If that's false, then Control C, Control V, this is what happens. And I'm going to put an arrow here. It's copy this again. I'm going to put the text here. The num is whatever it is. Okay. After that happens, if any of these happen, the program then terminates. So I'm going to copy this, Control C, Control V. I need to ensure that I have labeled that this is what happens when the condition before is false too. Then we just go here. All right, so now we need to show that we've reached the end of the program. So I'm going to Control C, Control V, the start ellipse, and I'm going to put it, I can put it right here. I think that should be okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show arrows going from this print statement, an arrow going from this print statement, and an arrow going from this print statement to the end to represent that that is where that program terminates. I'm just trying to evaluate, you know, I'll put it here because I could show the arrow going like that, this arrow going like this, and this one going like this. So I'm going to go ahead and click that first one. That shows an arrow going there. I'm going to click this next parallelogram, click the arrow here. It doesn't know what to do, so I will import one myself. Okay, and then again, as I've mentioned before, it's just some finagling with the arrows. I will drag and drop this arrow. I will go like this. Okay, and then I will move. There we go. Now you can also show a line connecting with another flow, and that's fine too. But I'm actually going to represent it as just kind of like three different arrows. But I can also see. I just want this to be aesthetically pleasing. Go like that. I guess this is fine. It just shows that it goes to the end. I'm trying to show you the different ways that you could represent that it does that, and also demonstrate that this is somewhat flexible. Um, and so if you have a question, you can ask it. But for the most part, as long as you're able to represent all of the processes accurately and you're able to show what the flow is, then you should be fine. That should be fine. That should be sufficient for the purposes of this project. Okay, I think that is it. I'll go ahead and I'll go back to the project two requirements. Of course, you would save this as a PNG and you would include this in your upload. Please don't forget to do that. If you forget to do it, I you have to submit it late, it's going to make your entire project late. So please don't forget to submit this PNG. I will go ahead and I will update your project requirements summary to include that because I actually don't see it here, so that you remember to do it. Okay. So if you have any questions about this project, any of the requirements, if anything is unclear, please, please, please reach out and I will answer your question as soon as I can. All right. Uh, have a wonderful day.